Let's start again. All right, team. I'm just working on the edit post page in my 4x4. I'll show you what we're up to so far. So what we have right now is when you edit a post. So this will be for the forum. So we're busy building a forum. You can create a post with a title. You can tag it. So these are basically your channels or your categories. And then we've got our what you see is what you get editor, WYSIWYG, going over here, going strong. So we go heading, so we got all that functionality we've been working on. Very cool. So we're doing this. And then what we're gonna work on next is down below here, we're gonna have the ability to add attachments. So you can dump a whole bunch of images or something in there. And what else are we doing? We've also got links, so that's working. And then we wanna be able to save this out. So once you hit save, you wanna save this body. So as you can recall, this is all in JSON. So we want to turn that into a JSON string. And we need to work on a way of parsing that, and also once we store it, stringifying and then passing it back down. Parsing, P-A-R-S-I-N-G, parsing. And yeah, we probably need some sort of Boolean or something to tell us that what type the content is, because currently it's just a big string. So we need to figure that out as well. All right, so this code is in source, pages, posts, edit. All right, so the brackets is the variable for the post ID, and that's what we use to fetch the post. So we're fetching the post here, and you can see I'm console logging it. So if we grab that, what are we getting? Let's just refresh this page. Here we go, so here's the post. The body's nothing at the moment, but here's the front bar options for forward, range, and wrap to next gen. And the post type, it's a forum post there. So these are all the important things that we need. Okay, cool. So that's that part. So now what we need to do is add this one thing. I'll show you how I've implemented this. So we've created a hook and a component for the form, which is this content here. So I'll jump into this component. So this is called the post form component. So you'll probably see that if you review the code base, you'll see we do this quite often. And basically it's all the fields, and it also has the use post form hook. All right. So we create this, and so the reason for doing this is that we can use this post form on new and edit page. And they use the same or similar logic. So we don't have to create multiple forms, it's just one form. And we do certain things. So if we have a post, it means with an ID, it means the post exists. So we're editing. If we don't have the ID, it means it's new. And then we're using use form from React hook form. And we're setting up the form state. So we basically, if it's a new post, we're just gonna use the default state, which is not much, just this. So we default the category to general, forum, titles nothing, and bodies nothing. But if we have one, we are going to take that entity and we're going to run through the fields and put that into the default state. All right, so that's that piece. We're watching the keys here so we can watch changes. We're loading categories. So usually in the form component or the use form component, we'll fetch any related things that we need. So when we create a post or edit one, we need to know what categories it's assigned to, so we go and fetch those. We also set up all the mutations. So here's the create post mutation, and then we're going to have the update mutation. So when you hit save, we need to do an update. And we grab these things, and you can see one on success. What we do here is we push to the post edit route, and then on the update, what we'll do is we'll invalidate the data we have. And then we export our callbacks, so create post, and then any special. So this one has a select category key, which is what we use for this. And then we export the categories, and then the currently selected category keys, the form payload, and then the mutations. And we use these mutations in the form so we can check if things are loading. All right. All of this is wrapped by a form component. And then we have set up special components inside form fields, just so that we don't have to keep defining the labels and things like that. And then we also have validation rules. All right. So that's the basic layout, but probably the best way to get a good handle on this is jump in and review the code. And this is repeated multiple times. You can see here's the post form, here's the project form, here's the user form. So we do this often, okay? All right, so that's just that overview. Let's go in, and what we're gonna do now is we'll probably try and do the updates so that we can save out this data. Okay, so inside the use post form hook, we're gonna create a update mutation. So this will be called update post mutation. trpc.post.update post by ID. That's our convention. Now we can see it's crying here, and that's going to be for a valid reason, is because inside a server trpc router posts, we are not going to have an update. We've got to create, and then we've got to get post ID, we've got to publish. All right, so what we're going to need here is an update post by ID. It's going to be a protected procedure. We're going to have an input, and then we're going to have a mutation. Right, and it's be async, yep. Okay, so what is going on? Okay, that always gets us. There we go. So, yep, the first thing we're going to require is an ID, obviously, because we need to know which one we're updating. And then what else are we going to allow users to update? So we are going to allow them to update the body, the category keys, the total, the post type, no. So that's all good. So we'll grab those things. That's what we'll do for now. So we require those these except for the category keys. But I think even then, yep, updating this is fine because there are other types of questions also a post, so we don't need category keys for that. So that's all good. That makes sense. I'm going to sort those. Now the mutation here, so it's very similar to what we do for a project. So we got a transaction here, but so basically the update is something like this. Right. So this will be not project, it'll be post. So we'll get a post back. And then this will need a where. And then a data. All right. So we got body, we got title. And then we'll just see when we're creating, how are we doing the categories. So we're mapping them. So I might just leave that one off for now just because it's going to be a little bit more complicated. So we may not allow, we'll fix that one later. So these won't update right now. That's fine. So at the moment, we're just allowing body. So this and this to be updated. Okay. So that's all cool. So now we've got the update post, and here what we're going to do is we're just going to return post. Okay, and then let's just see if there's any includes we need to be doing. And then includes, here we go. So when we do this, we want the post type and the post projects. So let's just do that. So include, all right. Cool, so that's the update post by ID. Now what you should see is this is not crying anymore. So that's cool. And what we're going to do is we're going to have the on success function. And then similar to the project, so when we update it, we need to get the invalidate. So this will be posts. And this will be get post by ID, invalidate get post. So what we're doing here is when we've updated, we're going to invalidate the query get post by ID, so where we've fetched the data. And that will allow us to update. It'll refetch and everything will be fresh. So I'm just going to copy this. So we're just going to go in here. All right, We actually don't need the data. We're going to say invalidate get post by ID, and we're going to call it with the post ID. All right, so we already know that. What are you saying? trpc dot use context. I rendered more hooks, that's fine. It's expected. Okay, so now here's our update post mutation. So we're going to go update post so that we can tell when something's loading there. And then we also want to create a new function up the top here, which will be like this one. And we'll rename this update post params. We expect data, and we have mutation. We won't change this, so we're just going to pass data straight through. All right, and this will be update post. I like to set up these functions on top here so that we can do special things if we need to. So for create post, for instance, I grab all the data that the form passes through, but then I just set publish to false. Because whenever you create a post, we default it to unpublished. Once you've done all your typing and built your beautiful post, you can then publish that post. So the same thing, we just like to keep that convention running. So here we're going to go pass in data, and it's going to be a type of default state. Right. My fingers are so cold, they're not working. Here we go, create, and this will be, the mutation is the update post mutation. Very simple convention, but I just like to stick to things like this, all right? So advice is find a convention you like and stick to it if you can. That just makes it easy for anyone else to follow and your team to follow. Let's go. So we've got our update now. So now what we can see is, let's just see if we can chuck update post. We've got our update function, and you can see here in this form component, I've already done this, submit form. If there's a post ID, we use update, otherwise we use create. All right, so now what we should see is, let's refresh this. And I'm just going to change this to next generation and hit save. So what's wrong here? Path ID is missing. All right, so we need to pass through the ID. Yep. All right, so we need to pass that through. I'm just going to go and check out the use project form. Where are we setting the ID? Ah, here we go. It's right there in plain sight. All right, so in here, so this is why we have this object. We need to pass through the post as well. So we're going to go post. And then we're going to pass that through. And then this will be post, and that will be updated data. Now we always set this, and then we just pass this through here. Right? So we always pass through the posts. Okay, so let's hit save again. There we go. So we can see here there's a mutation, post.update post, and then we got a result. And you can see that our result data was next generation. So that's now stored in the DB. And then what you can see happen here is that there's a query to get post by ID. So that's the invalidation. So it's now fetching that data again to make sure that all our data is fresh. Now, if we refresh this page, you can see it's been stored. And we change it to next gen and refresh, it's saved. All right. So we're now saving away our data, which is awesome. Okay. So the next piece is we're going to try and store and hydrate this body. So at the moment, you can see in our edit screen, we're passing through an initial value, or it'll probably be in the post form. There's an initial value here. So let's just clear that out to make it easier for us. You can see we pass through this, it's hard coded, right? So this text is hard coded, which is not what we want. we need to be smart here. So when we're creating a new post for a forum and we're going to use a WYSIWYG editor like this, our post editor, we want to use JSON data like this. When we're doing just a simple text one, it's just going to be text field. So let's see how we can handle that. Okay, so the main thing that we know from this is when we have a form, like, so let's look at what the post looks like. Okay, we're actually getting it here. So this post has a post type key of forum. Okay, so when we're building forum posts, we're going to use our editor. So what I'll do in here is, let's create a new little variable, const I mean, what are we going to call this thing? We could call this should use post editor. Should use post editor is equal to, boom. All right. So when we a post type key forum, then we need to use the post editor. So I'm just going to put it in here because it just makes it easier to define once. Right, so now if we go from here, we can get it out of this form payload. Okay, now what we can do here is, if it's has a post ID and should use post editor, we're going to render the editor field. Okay, so that's all good. Let's see, is there another post ID? Let's pull up posts. So these are questions. So if we grab this one and pasted that there, you can see it's now gone. Okay, so what we're going to do instead of this is we are going to, I wonder if we should do something like this. So if we have a post that's loaded, all right, that's it. I'm going to do a fragment, and then I'm going to say should use post editor. Right, so we can do a ternary here. Should use that, or we're going to render that. Okay, so if we have post editor, we're going to just do this, which is the same logic as we have now. Otherwise, we're going to do, I'm just going to comment this out. Otherwise, we're going to use not a basic field, but an actual form field. And this will be body. And it's going to be a text area. All right. So what are you going on? Okay, there's only one child, so anyway, that works for now. Let's make the text area height a little bit higher. So we're going to say height equals, I don't know, 180. Oh, okay, this is a normal text area, so we actually have to go style equals height 180. All right, so that's our normal, and we also need a margin top on that guy of, what are we doing? We're doing 4. All right, so this is our question post. So it's just a normal body, nothing special. Then when we have our forum post, we get our, what you see is what you get, editor. All right, simple. Let's get rid of this. Okay, question thing. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that for now. All right, that is something we can do. There's also this style you can do. You can say if we have a post ID and should use post editor, that, and close that off. And then we can do the same thing down here. We can say if we have a post ID and not should use post editor, You got that option as well. And then we can get rid of that and that. And that also works. And then we don't have any complaints. Basically rendering two different things. Not the best. But that works. And no one's crying at us. Okay? So all good. So if we go here now and say selling for 15.50, let's just check this works. Save 15.50. Okay, so that saves. Now let's just check this one. This one's going to be interesting because what is this going to say? Test. Because this isn't linked to the form field, the body isn't changing. Okay, so we need to hook into this now somehow. So we need to grab some way of when we hit save, we need to read this editor value, okay? So the way I'm thinking of doing this is inside of this editor, we need to have some sort of callback, okay? So if we see, well, how do we do that? So in the toolbar, we are using the save button, which is grabbing editor.children. Okay, so editor is being passed into the toolbar. So this is this guy here. Like we can even do something like this. We could actually even use it in the use post form if we wanted to. And that might even be a better way of doing it again. So if we chuck it in there, so we don't need this context, I'll just delete this. Let's clean up our heads, get rid of the toolbar. Okay, so inside a use post form, the unfortunate thing is that we have, let's just go here. Use state. We can call this hook now, because I closed this editor. We can define this hook from the post form, this guy. We can define this in here. Now, I might even move this up so we have it before any of this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say should use post form. We're going to say should use it, then we'll do all that work. Otherwise we're just going to do undefined. Okay, so and then we just need to create wrapped this. So we don't need the editor component, we just need this create wrapped editor. So what I'm doing here is I'm not going to set up this whole editor object if we're not using it. So we don't need to do that. And then I'm just going to export this guy from here. All right. And then in here, we now go and take editor there. And now we're passing it through. All right. So now when we do this guy, if we look at, so let's look at editor. Undefined, right? But when we go into our actual thing, you can see that editors are full on, is the full Slate object. Okay, so that's just for performance reasons. Okay, all right, all of that so that we can now access the editor object. Now, when we only use this option in update. So when you're creating new, we don't allow you to set the body. So this is only going to happen in update. So what we want to do is when we update our post, we might even pass through now the editor object. Okay, so we need to go through here and depending on, so I might just pass it through here. Depending on the post type, we're going to do different things. I'm gonna say this is an object because it is. So now we have editor. We also want to know the post type, or should use post editor. Let's pass that through here as well. All right, so we're going to put that in here. Okay. Now, spreading it up with data. Now the body, if it should be used post editor, this is not right, but anyway, if it's this, we're going to get children. All right. So if we have a look at how we did that in the toolbar, post editor toolbar was get. It's just editor.children, not even a get children. So it's just editor.children, right? That's the body. But before we do this, let's log this out. So we're going to go console.log editor.children. Okay, and let's just see what we're getting. So I'll refresh this page. Now, where are we console logging as well? Get rid of that. Just tidy up our screens. All right. So when we hit save, you can see there's a little array. Now we can't save that in an array because if we look at our model, posts body is over here. Now, what we could do is we could go and maybe do two things here. We could say, let's get serialize this body as plain text, and then store another, the JSON object as its own thing. And I think that's probably what we want to do here, just so that I'm not sure about storing this stringified JSON in this text area. It doesn't feel right. I'd rather store it in JSONB because that will give us way more flexibility. So let's try and add a JSONB column to the posts and see how we can do that in Prisma. All right, so for the docs in Prisma, so they have, this is interesting, so they use a JSON thing here, and we can do the DB and define that as in Postgres as JSONB. So we're going to go into Prisma, we're going to go into schema, we're going to look for the model post, and now we've got body, and I wonder if we can say body data, and we're going to call that a JSON, and it's optional because not all posts have data like this, and we're going to say it is a db.json, there it was, I saw you, JSON B. We're going to map it to body data. All right, so that's body data, it's optional, and it's JSON type. All right, so let's run that here. So we're going to go npm run migrate. Cool, let's see what that looks like. So now if we have our posts, where are you? Body data, JSONB. All right, so we got a JSONB field. Now if we look here, we got a body data field. All right, great. Sweet. So go away. That's migrated. Now what we can do here, what are we going to do? So we are going to pass through, we need to fix up our update post. We can also pass through now, we can pass through body data, and this is a z dot, it's not an object, it's actually an array. I wonder if we can, what's the thing here? It's an array of objects. And it's optional. I wonder what the Z for any is. All right, that looks like it's right. And then what we're going to say here is body data is input.body data. Okay? And that's when we're updating. Let's see. I hope this works, everyone. So now what we're going to do is we are going to do updated data. And we need the serialize function. So that came out of the toolbar where I was mucking around with it. So we had this serialize function here. So we're going to call this here, and we're going to say serialize editor value as string, right? We need the node. Where are you sitting? From Slate. I mean, realistically, we'd almost want this value not sitting in here, but we'll do this for now. So serialize editor value is string. So what we're going to do is, if we get the editor is should use post editor, we're going to serialize the body as a string. And then what we're going to do also is in here, we are going to do body data and not delta. That's just going to be straight editor.children. So should use post editor, cool, otherwise undefined. That's cool. And then we're going to just do our mutation. All right. Complicated, a little bit, but hopefully that works. So let's jump in here. We need to run our server again. All right. You good? All right. Let us save that and see what happens. Okay, we got something back. We got body data. It's an object. It's got our children. We're in business. Okay, so now let's just jump into here, and you can see our body data is an object. It's in JSON. It means we can query that if we ever needed to. It's not just a string. And then what you can see here, that this is just a text. So that makes it very handy. So we strip out all the embeds, we strip out all the nonsense, and we end up with just pure text. So we can use that for summaries. If we wanted to show a little description of the post or something, we got that there, okay? All right, so now what we want to do is when we're hydrating this form, we actually want to load this in instead of this initial data that we're doing. So let's do something. So let's go in here and we're going to say, let's add a little embed. So I'm just going to grab this guy, right? And we're going to pop that right in there. And then I say, right? And then here I'm just going to add a heading as well. Heading, right, awesome. Heading. And we're going to turn that into an H1. Love it. We're going to hit save. Now we're going to see here. What's this one? I don't know what that is, but anyway. You can see our body data. All right. And then if we jump into the DB, you can see that this is what the text looks like. Cool. And then you can see here we've got this whole object. But now what's going to happen? We're going to refresh this page. It's back to normal. Now that's expected because we are using, inside of our post form, this initial value. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're not going to use that anymore because that's what we're popping in here. What we're going to use is we are going to use the post dot body data. So we don't even have to actually do anything crazy here. I think just post.bodyData. Now if we refresh, boom, we're on. And that's it. Now we've got a little what you see is what you get editor. So I'm just going to say my heading, save that, refresh that, and we're on. That's very cool. All right, so we have now done the update method, and this will work for the editor, which is using Slate, which we're using the JSON object, or just the plain text version when you're editing a question. So our example like this, right? So we just save that and refresh, boom, and refresh, and then that's it. So where was that one? This one was selling for 500. So this is anyone interested in sail plane? Anyone here? 1500. So the DB is all good. So we have nailed that. All right. So that's how we can do the update method using Slate and still have our what you see is what you get editor there. We can remove these toolbar buttons because you actually do not need them. So we will remove save because you're no longer needed. Sorry, champ. You go away and you go away. All right. So now we got the posts. Awesome. That's very cool. So the next piece that I want to add is the attachments down the bottom here. So we're going to need to do some sort of uploader where you can drop images in. So you can have all your post attachments. So we'll jump into that one next.